Today on Voice of the Valleys, in one of the greatest privacy breaches in recent memory, the police in the UK raid people's passport photos. We're going to talk about why that is a problem. We're also going to discuss schools using kids to target refugees with Valentine's Day cards and why that's a problem. We're also going to talk about more of Reform's turn for the woke and the recently now resigned homelessness minister who resigned after it was found out that she, in the pursuit of making greater money for herself, made more of her tenants homeless. All that and more today, ladies and gentlemen, on Voice of the Valleys. Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I should have had my transition there, but I'm going to do it again because we have a little bit of a technical difficulty. There it is. Welcome back to Voice of the Valleys, ladies and gentlemen. Hope we're having a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever we are. So it is currently Friday, the 8th of August at time of recording. So we're all having a great day. Thank you to everyone who's been commenting on the clips that are on the channel and everything like that, leaving your comments, likes, shares, everything like that. If you get things out of the episodes and the clips and stuff like that, please do share them around. I greatly appreciate it. And obviously as well, if you're sharing it on X or Instagram or anything like that, feel free to tag me in it so that I can repost it and hopefully amplify it, especially if it's something which is very, very important. I posted a link to one of the clips that I made on the what is basically a Hezbollah training camp that was going on in the Peak District recently, and I believe it's got quite a bit more traction, that little clip has, from posting it in one of the comment sections on X, one of the large accounts on X. So thank you to those who've gone to that video, watched it, commented on it, etc. Very, very important things, obviously, we all need to be aware of, because this could be coming into a community near you very, very soon, as we'll get onto a little bit later. But obviously, and I get called all sorts of names all of the time for political views and such. Like, I'm trying to tuck my hair out of the way. It's getting a bit long now. I think it might be starting to get a little bit long. Might have to, give it a little bit of a trim, or at least have it cleared up a little bit. What are the government focused on? Well, the government are obviously focused on stifling dissent at every single turn, right? And instituting more of this Chinese-style social credit state where everything is controlled by the government, right? And we've seen all manner of breaches being done, to get at people's personal data, photos, trying to get into people's messages via forcing, like Telegram, for example. There was that incident with Pavel Durov where they basically forced him, whatever methods they have, to lax the security on Telegram, for example. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and Meta was all keen a little while ago to be giving over all the data to the government and complying with what the American government were trying to do to strong arm them to get more surveillance of just regular people, just regular people. They want control of everybody. They need control of everybody's internal communications or private communications, so that they have every avenue possible to keep an eye on them, as the all-seeing eye of Big Brother, right? So very, very Orwellian indeed. This recently broke in a Telegraph, however, in another instance where the government is ramping up their facial ID, facial recognition technologies. They have now allowed, or police rather, have raided passport photo data in what has been described as a historic breach of privacy. So this broke in the Telegraph recently. Says here, police have conducted hundreds of facial recognition searches on Britain's passport photo database in a, quote, historic breach to the right of privacy, the Telegraph can reveal. Obviously, this is all in line with what our government is accountable to with regards to the World Economic Forum and all things like that. Their motto is quite literally, you will own nothing and be happy, right? And along with that comes there's zero right to privacy. You don't be a global citizen, can't be a private citizen and a global citizen, right? Those two things do not go together. They're completely incongruous. So privacy is going to be a myth, especially online and stuff like that, which is why you see people turning to VPNs and all manner of different ways to try and circumvent them. And that's why then, as we discussed an episode or two ago, now the government are trying, or the spokespeople for the government, the media heads and stuff like that, now saying you're putting children in danger if you're using VPNs and stuff like that, when the people who are going to be turning to VPNs now, for the most part, are just your regular British citizen that doesn't want the government spying on every little single thing they do, because they have no reason to. They have no reason to, right? It's all gaslighting. All of this is gaslighting. Number of requests by police to use passport and immigration information to identify criminals. Again, now you've got to be careful because of what classifies as a criminal nowadays. If you're a child rapist, odds are you'll be absolutely fine. If you're a person with a dodgy status on social media, you're an enemy of the state, has quote unquote skyrocketed, according to campaigners, despite concerns about civil liberties. Dozens of forces across Britain now use retrospective facial recognition technology, which allows them to identify suspects on CCTV or doorbell camera footage without leaving their desk. Ministers say that the system speeds up investigations, but opponents say it will become a branch of an Orwellian surveillance state. And that is absolutely correct. Even if at this moment, and I see this argument or similar line of thought coming up in my head when I think about the death penalty, right? When I think about administering the death penalty at the moment, which I think for some crimes, obviously the severity of them, it is warranted. And there's a reason why it was used all throughout history, right? And there's a reason why when Tony Blair came in, one of the first things that he did not long after he came in was to reduce the crime for treason from death to life imprisonment. Right, it is a very big deterrence. But we're seeing now how these things will be politicized. We're seeing how the death penalty will be politicized because they're doing it with regards to the abortion and euthanasia amendments, which they push through at the moment. So it will be politicized. Why, at the moment, I don't think we can be trusted with it as in a judiciary and as a society, because we've let our morals go so much as well. We cannot be trusted with something like the death penalty at the moment because it will be used in ways that we've seen it used in past with like the Khmer Rouge and the communists in Russia, the communists in China. It will be used in that way, absolutely. And it will become a branch with the Orwellian state also, because they'll always say like, oh, it'll just be used for this. It'll just be used for this. It's like abortion in a way where, you know, when the abortion liberalization laws were coming in America, Clinton was saying like safe, legal and rare. And now it's basically used as a form of contraception. And since Planned Parenthood have come in, they've killed about, is it like 60 million babies? So yeah. Anyway, it will become politicized. That is the problem. This will become politicized because of what we've now taken criminals to be. In fact, the main criminals now in Britain are grannies posting on social media, not liking kids being raped by foreigners, not the actual foreigners that are invading the country every single day and subsequently doing those heinous things to kids and committing all the other kinds of crime. Not to mention illegal entry to a country is a crime in and of itself. They tried to mask it by calling them asylum seekers, but I spoke about it last episode, whereby, and in one of the shorts I posted on YouTube, I think I put it up today, where this is not the same situation in which you had refugees like in our country back in World War II, for example. This is not boomer speak when I'm saying this, by the way. It is highlighting a difference. These people, we are sending them our kids, like in the Blitz, for example, when the cities were being bombed, they were sent to areas like mine in the countryside, right? And you know, we'd send them away because we want to keep the children safe. It'd be the parents that stay behind. But most of the people coming across on the boats now are military age men, so it is the exact opposite. They, in theory, if there is a conflict going on, they should be the ones over there fighting it and sending their women and children away, not the other way around. Okay, it's a mark of not only not good men, but it's a mark of these in many cases are not real refugees. Okay, they're not real asylum seekers, and they're being seen as political pawns in a wider game to get rid of the democratic vote and get rid of the power of the Welsh people through the English people, Scottish people, British people, all through eroding the power of the democratic vote, which is really all we have at the moment. We gave away any enforcement arm and we gave away the right to bear arms, all of this, pardon me, all of this stuff, right? So we gave away all of that. We have no kind of Second Amendment or anything like that to deal with the state's monopoly on force. So the only thing we have really is a democratic, the democratic system. And that's rapidly being eroded. That's why something like the Welsh quote-unquote nationalists, the Plaid Cymru globalists and nationalists clothing plan to institute something like a nation of sanctuary plan is so dangerous. But this is where it says here, damaging public trust. So a passport holder whose face was included in a police search would never know that their data had been used for that purpose. This kind of thing where we move into the digital age, something we never really understood, especially growing up and stuff like that, that the data would obviously be used in this way. But, you know, the classic saying, when it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. And your data in many instances now is not your own. Okay, that's part of the cons of everything being online nowadays, that it's in the hands of the people that run this stuff, right? And in many instances that is the government or people who are beholden to the government. So really what checks and balances do we have, right? But what other system do we have? What other way can we do it now? It's a lot different to how it was, you go back 50, 60 years ago, you wouldn't have had any of this problem back then. Private citizens were largely private, not so much anymore. The UK's former biometrics watchdog has warned that the practice has a, quote, significant risk of disproportionality. Sorry, my teeth in. Significant risk of disproportionality and of damaging public trust, as if it can be damaged anymore at this point. I saw something online recently that said only 9% of the country, 9% of people that were polled, I'll see if I can find the actual poll itself a bit quick. Only 9% of people in this country now think that Keir Starmer's doing a good job. So here we go. This is from a YouGov poll. The actual poll isn't linked in the post. But according to the GB Politics page on X, just 9% of Brits think Keir Starmer has been a good PM so far. So I think you can say that public trust is basically, non-existent at this point. The approval levels for a prime minister have never, I don't think, ever been lower, at least in my memory anyway, at least in my lifetime. And that speaks a lot about the kind of policies that have been pushed through, and that people are really starting to see this for what it is now. I hope at least the vast majority of people are, because I think at the start of his term, I think he was on it. I'm just trying to think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but at the start of his term, I think it was around about half. I think it was around about half, or maybe around 40% approval. And then it's done nothing but obviously nosedive. It's done nothing but nosedive since then. Data obtained under Freedom of Information laws by Big Brother Watch, the Civil Liberties Campaign Group, found that the number of passport photo searches increased from 2 in 2020 to 417 in 2023. In the first 10 months of 2024, another 377 searches were conducted, putting police on course for a similar number of searches last year. The number of searches of the immigration database, which is formed of photos collected by Border Force, increased sevenfold over the same period to 102 last year. The system means that photos of people who have never been convicted of a crime have been processed by police with limited legal or regulatory oversight. Now, that's the big thing here, is that you have people who have never been convicted of a crime, and you'd think, at least in many instances, would have no reason to be suspected of committing one, are now being processed by police in this manner. And again, the biggest thing is that what classifies as a crime nowadays? What classifies as a crime? Now that we've gone into this realm of subjectivity, now that we've gone into this realm of moral relativism, what classes as a crime is not in line with some objective standard that was instituted by a higher power, let's say. It's now based on the whims of whatever a society or the individual decides, who has the power to decide it, whatever is politically correct, should we say. So now, what classifies as a crime? We've now got to the point where if you try to defend children from being raped by foreigners coming from the third world, saying that, even just saying that, saying protect our kids, gets you labeled as a fascist and is causing quote unquote offense or harm, online harm to people, then you can go to prison. Like Lucy Connolly, for example. Lucy Connolly given, I think it was 31 months in prison. There was a guy recently, I'll see if I can pull up the story now so we can talk about it, who was on a flight and said to the hostess, I believe it was, so I'm just trying to find where it is. Here it is. A Pakistani businessman, Salman Iftikhar, I think that's how you say it, was only jailed for 15 months after calling a stewardess a fucking white Welsh cunt and threatening to bomb her hotel room, gang rape her, and set her alight on a first-class flight from London to Lahore. And Lucy Connolly got double that for simply a social media post which she deleted and apologized for, in which she expressed frustration everyone was feeling at the time, violent frustration that everyone was feeling at the time, But even Matt Walsh came out and said, post when he talked about it on one of his shows, wouldn't have got her thrown in prison for anything under the First Amendment in America because she did not say anything that expressed, a violent intent on her part. It was the "for all I care." Basically, set the hotels full of the bastards alight for all I care. Okay, and there's a difference there. She's not saying she's going to do it. She's not telling anybody to do it. She's expressing a big frustration and anger at the time around Southport where those 3 beautiful young girls were massacred by an Islamic terrorist. This is the video of that incident for you, though, ladies and gentlemen. I've pulled this up for you now. So yeah, this is the video of Mr. What was his name? Mr. Ikhtar, calling the stewardess on this plane a, quote, fucking white Welsh cunt, threatening to bomb her hotel room, set her alight and gang rape her. So just check the video, ladies and gentlemen. It is working. Large parts of the video have obviously been censored. This is coming from Metro, I believe it is. It's from a source on X, but it's coming from Metro for the most part. Pardon me. I'm very sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go. Here's that video coming for you now.
Can't be fighting like that. Just because you're a racist. You're racist. You come and fuck everybody. You're a racist. I've all the videos show you're racist. You want to see them? Bring your own crew. Let's see them. Let's see them. You ready on it? Come on, video. Oh, you see the back here.
Holy.
So for the threatening conduct, for what was alleged to have been said, and the guy's been sentenced now, by the way, as I mentioned before, the guy's been sentenced to 15 months. Again, what classifies as a criminal nowadays? This guy got half of the sentence for not only the words that were used, the racist words that were used, as in he used this, he insulted this woman on the basis of her race, on the basis of her ethnicity, or at least nationality, but then also provided direct threats to her, if this is correct, threatening to bomb her hotel room, gang rape her, and set her alight. And I'm sorry, when it comes from these people, often not, you can't just dismiss this. You have to treat it as credible threats, right? You have to treat these as credible threats. And for Lucy Connolly, which was a social media post which she took down and apologized for, she's still in prison on double this guy's sentence, and she had her appeals recently rejected. Again, do not tell me that we don't live in a two-tier, disgustingly two-tier society. But let's talk about the police themselves for a moment, as we've talked about at length before. Who are the kinds of people that may be going through this stuff and acting on the stuff that is brought forward from these breaches of privacy and stuff like that, right? And that seem to be refusing to hold themselves to account also, but not specifically in this instance, because this person was actually caught by his own colleagues. This is one of the most disturbing stories that I saw break recently, ladies and gentlemen. This is a police officer, 48. I'm going to read some of the article now. You can read it on Daily Mail. He filmed himself raping a baby girl. He's been jailed for 16 years after being caught by his own colleagues. If you think this isn't close to home for you, ladies and gentlemen, this is this officer in question, Dean Roberts, is of South Wales Police. Formerly of South Wales Police. He filmed himself abusing the infant. The 48-year-old was caught when another paedophile was arrested. Detectives traced child abuse footage back to their own colleague, Roberts. A police officer was jailed for 16 years for raping a baby after being caught by his own colleagues. PC Dean Roberts, which I'll bring on the screen for you now, and bring on the screen for you now, ladies and gentlemen. This is, if I bring this up on screen, this is PC Dean Roberts. This is PC Dean Roberts, according to the Daily Mail article. Said, filmed himself, or footage was worked back to him abusing the quote-unquote, the helpless infant, and sent the footage to other paedophiles on a messaging app. The former officer with South Wales Police was caught after another paedophile was arrested, and detectives traced child abuse footage back to their own colleague. Cardiff Crown Court heard the pair planned to jointly abuse children and would share footage of their crimes. Roberts admitted rape, sexual assault of child, and possessing and distributing indecent images of children. The mother of Roberts' victim told the court, "I can never forget the knock on my door and my whole world just falling apart. It was like being hit by a bus. We will always have to live with the consequences." Judge Recorder of Cardiff, Larry Reeves, handed Roberts a 16-year extended sentence and told him he must serve at least 12 years behind bars. What kind of sentence is this? What kind of sentence is this? Surely the minimum for this, 16 years extended? Surely the minimum for this has to be life. Has to be life in prison without the possibility of parole. That's the minimum. That's the bare minimum, surely. It's no wonder we're the mark of a failing nation when we're so lenient on people like this. When we're so lenient on people like this. She was helpless to defend herself, although the footage indicates she was awake and in real discomfort. And this is the kind of people we have seemingly infested all throughout the police, all up and down this country. We've covered before that now it's come out that Yvette Cooper has been alleged to have blocked investigations into police rapists with regards to Rotherham and things like that, right? These are the people who are in Dominion. It's good that he was eventually caught by his own colleagues. It does show that there are still good people within the police, at least you would hope, right? It's a good mark that at least he was brought to justice by his own colleagues, because we've seen all manner of instances where, for all kinds of illegality, that people will cover for each other. People will cover for each other, right? But other people now who are able to retrospectively go through people's passport photos with limited legal or regulatory oversight, should we really be trusting them? Should we really be trusting them that they're going to do a good job? Should we really be trusting them that they're completely benevolent? You know, are they going to do everything in the public's best interests or whatever? When we've seen how much the ideological rot has set in all different public institutions. So recently that I believe it was the UK civil service was being made to go through mandatory trainings on the guilt of being British. On the guilt of being British. True Maoist-like struggle sessions, right? True Maoist-like struggle sessions. So the only benefit being for the people that are benefiting from the destruction of our country and us as and the eradication and enslavement of us as a people, right? This is straight out of Maoist China, right? The guilt of being British. Let that sink in for a moment. The guilt of being British. And that is one mark of the rampant ideological rot that's set in all throughout public institutions. It's in every public institution. It's in the NHS with regards to the trans and Islam stuff, right? You have branches within the NHS or groups that splintered off from the NHS. They're often made up of ex-nurses and stuff like that that are trying to fight for their own justice because they were forced to change alongside a man inside their private changing facilities and stuff like that, right? So it's just going to show that the people who are committing these evils and have the implications to commit these evils are everywhere. And it makes you wonder now, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? And when you see how evil our society has become, how it's been taken over by such evil, and that all of it is the result in some way, somehow, of I'm not going to say our doing necessarily, but human doing, you understand the flood story in Genesis a little bit better. You understand why that flood might have kind of been necessary. as a bit of a reset button. But that's a discussion for another time. What do we do? Is it at this point where you see police officers leaving and making it known that they're leaving all the time now? Pretty much a video came out of somebody I talked about a little while ago where they were questioning officers that are still in the force. What are you doing? Why are you still putting on that badge? It doesn't mean what it used to mean. A lot of people leaving movements at the moment. At the moment, I'm not sure whether anybody is seeing, because they keep up with the news on the nationalist front or whatever, or the nationalist side of politics. There's been a mass exodus, seemingly, of activists, officers, and people that used to be involved in the Homeland Party at the moment. It's been a mass exodus of people, and they had a space last night on X, which I was actually listening into. Just I thought it was quite interesting, where a lot of them were talking about their reasons why and stuff like that in the open letter that they put to Homeland. Homeland's response, and since then it seems even more of left. Cal, the prominent nationalists that was recently at the Epping protest, seemed to be leading it. The Epping protester on the Bell Hotel, who I believe it was the Times tried to smear him, I think quite unfairly. Even if you've got a problem with like nationalists and their views and stuff like that, at least present valid criticisms. Don't try and smear him as this kind of terrorist based on photos that were taken a long time ago, where the Times actually said that he posed alongside the Unabomber Manifesto, when you can quite clearly see, if you go on Amazon, for example, and type in Unabomber Manifesto and then find the image of Cal and this weird mask thing holding up this thing that says Unabomber Manifesto on it, it's not the same cover. Okay, it's not the same thing. Again, a lot of these guys that have been activists in the Homeland Party did actually go down that route at one point, or were in danger of going down that route. I spoke to James Monroe, for example, who was going down that route massively. If you haven't listened to that conversation, by the way, go find my sit down with James Monroe. It's a truly eye-opening conversation into what it's like to go down those rabbit holes. But a lot of them have seemed, at least, to have turned it around in massive ways and not gone down that extremist, violent route anymore, and have been quite open in talking about how the Homeland Party has sort of shaped them to do that. But since then, he's resigned as well. He put out a statement saying that he'd resigned recently as well. So we're seeing a lot of interesting developments on the right side of politics as well, on the nationalist side, which I'm sure we'll have some good things to cover in the future. But thinking about, again, the people in our public institutions now, what do we need to do? Can they be saved? Or do they need to be metaphorically, because I know there'll be people listening to this, people going back through passport photos and stuff like that. Metaphorically speaking, do we need to burn it down, so to speak, and start again? Do we need to flood it, so to speak, and start it again? Speaking of flooding things and starting again, or some really, really disconcerting things. This broke recently from Charlotte Gill. So Charlotte Gill, or Charlotte Gill, I'm not sure how to pronounce her surname, which one it is, has been doing a lot of good work on the Doge UK front. She runs Doge UK, and talking a lot about the the wasteful spending of the government, all of this stuff, right? But she's also been talking a lot about recently the schools of sanctuary and cities of sanctuary stuff, and something that is really, really disconcerting, especially if you have a kid in public school, right? Which, if you live in an area like mine, you very much so do, because homeschooling not exactly very, very popular nowadays. That kind of family structure, not very popular nowadays, is weird. Seems that people want to have kids, but they don't want to have a traditional family, which is weird, a structured and traditional family. But point being is that odds are, if you live in an area like mine, very low socioeconomic status and stuff like that, odds are you rely on the public school system. And what we're seeing at the moment with the weaponization, and this will be, if it isn't being done already, will be done in Wales in line with the Nation of Sanctuary and Schools of Sanctuary programs that they want to bring in. You should be very concerned that your children are being tasked with making Valentine's Day cards for asylum, quote-unquote asylum seekers, right? I'm not joking, ladies and gentlemen. The people that we're seeing at the moment coming across on the boats committing disproportionately more crime. There's a prevalent meme going around at the moment where it's like the I can't remember I can't remember the name of the Simpsons character, Lenny, the Simpsons character. He's taking something down off a scoreboard, and it says days without, and somebody's edited at the bottom, channel migrant rape, and it's 0 and 0, right? As in, we literally every single day you have some kind of quote unquote asylum seeker or illegal migrant, whatever it may be, doing something horrible towards either a woman or a child, right? This is awful. But then your schools have now been politicized to bring in more of these people. Politicized initiatives, which, by the way, if a school is going to go out and do any of this, to my understanding, it needs to be non-partisan, right? It needs to be non-partisan. None of the stuff that's happening with the schools at the moment is non-partisan, right? Whether it comes to the climate change stuff, whether it comes to now nation and cities of sanctuary and schools of sanctuary, whereby your school teachers, in many instances, openly, happily espousing this kind of ideology because it makes them feel all warm and fuzzy inside because of how much they've been duped by this stuff, duped by the propaganda themselves, and now tasking children with putting themselves in danger of feeling, not understanding the wider implications of it, that doing things that are putting them in danger from these people is a good and virtuous thing to do in their school lessons. And this stuff has no business being A, anywhere near children, and B, certainly nowhere near school system. A, let kids be kids. B, just educate them on maths, English, history, etc. Is that so much to ask for?
Why have children been making Valentine's cards for refugees? That's what I've recently stumbled upon from a charity called City of Sanctuary UK. This charity wants the UK essentially to become a place, a nation of sanctuary. And sanctuary has become the new trendy term when talking about asylum seekers, illegal migrants. They're now referred to as sanctuary seekers by a lot of Labour councils. Many of them are becoming boroughs of sanctuary. And there are also universities of sanctuary and groups of sanctuary and nurseries and schools of sanctuary. In fact, according to City of Sanctuary UK's website, there are over 1,200 schools and nurseries taking part in the Schools of Sanctuary scheme. And one of the ways they were encouraged to show their solidarity with sanctuary seekers is through creating hearts decorated and also Valentine's cards.
All right, we'll go through a little bit more of that in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to go through, for those of you who might be listening, not watching, we're going to go through some of the stuff as well. If you're watching this, they'll be popping back up on screen for the moment. I want you to notice something, right, that who do you see? Charlotte's been one of the exceptions in this instance, seems to be more so towards the conservative end of politics, right? But what do you see, at least from there, the main drivers of these kinds of initiatives, right? If I bring up this image, for example, right? If I maybe bring up this image, right? A lot of these initiatives dominated by women because their empathy drive has been driven to suicidal levels. Their empathy drive to want to appear virtuous and all of these things have been driven to suicidal levels, to the point now where they're putting these children in danger. They're putting children in danger for the sake of third world adults, in most cases, who want to come over and will want to do them harm. Make no mistake about it, because they're coming from societies where this is permissible. They're coming from societies where this is permissible. So here's some examples. If you missed them, ladies and gentlemen, they'll be coming up on screen as well. This was one example of the Valentine's Day cards that we saw. So this is just a drawing from a child where it says Happy Valentine's Day on it. It's just got several love hearts on it. There's another one here, which is a child holding one. And it says here, as if it would be something straight out of like the UN or the World Economic Forum, whatever. It's literally something on there. You can see how deep the indoctrination is set in with these children who have no defenses against it. And this is why it's also important for you as the parent to be clued in on this stuff, because you are the first line of defense. I love refugee rights. Okay? I love refugee rights. Again, something straight out of the document of like UNESCO. Straight out of like a UNESCO document, that is, or straight out of a not even WHO, but like a World Economic Forum here. This one here, this is a love heart held presumably by two girls here. Be kind to refugees. Be kind to refugees. Again, point being, these are not refugees in the way that we've been led to believe that they are, in the way that these children are being led to believe that they are. And it's not the children's fault. They're not supposed to be worrying about this stuff. These are not problems that children should be dealing with and having any say in. Okay? With important issues, you don't let children drive the bus or drive the car or fly the plane. Okay? But this is the thing. This is the leftist thing now, where everybody is the master of their own world, so to speak, or that everybody's truth, if you will, is equally valid or whatever. This is the kind of things that spawn. You have to let children decide what their quote unquote gender is. That if they decide that they're a boy when they're a girl, you got to do everything to follow through on that, because somehow we've allowed us to believe that children have a better reflection, better understanding of the world than adults do. Many instances, they may actually have a better understanding of how the world works compared to some of these adults who actually go along and believe this stuff, right? A lot of the teachers, not exactly the sharpest tools in the box, right? They go along with this stuff because they don't know how to fight back against it either. They don't know what they're engaging in. They think it's a good thing. They can't see it for what it is. So if they can't see it for what it is, how the hell do you expect the kids to see it for what it is? But it's like in many instances where you see, the trans ideology or the gender ideology try to foist onto kids. And pardon me a moment. You see the gender ideology and trans ideology try to foist onto kids, and the kids saying to the teacher, just the basic fact of human biology, right? You see it all the time. And it's quite funny when it happens that sometimes it does appear that the kids might have a better grasp on reality than the parents do, or the not the parents, sorry, the teachers do. So this was explained or encapsulated very well in the What is a Woman documentary with that gender-affirming therapist, quote-unquote, doctor, all right, Michelle Forcier, where Matt is saying about, kids, they might believe in Santa Claus, but Santa Claus isn't actually real. And she's like, well, to the kids they are. To the kids, Santa Claus is. It's still Santa Claus that delivers their presents, as if then that makes it real. When obviously everybody knows that, sadly, and this might be a spoiler for you, Santa Claus is not real. Well, here's some more examples, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be nice to refugees. More for being nice to people. More refugee rights are needed, right? If they don't have enough already. We can't deport some people because of a fucking McDonald's isn't available in their home country, for example. Bear in mind as well, ladies and gentlemen, again, kids are not expected to know this. They're already coming from a safe country. They're already coming from France. They come in all the way through Europe. They come into Britain specifically because of the benefit system. It says here, I love refugee rights. Stop the Rwanda scheme. Take all refugees equally. But the fact of the matter is they're exploiting a romantic holiday. Key point there. Romantic holiday for political exploitation. Not just for political exploitation, but using children on a romantic holiday to appeal to quote-unquote refugees. That should make you sick to your stomach. And if you are able to, should please get them out of public school. Or at least, if this message reaches you, at least be ready to fight back against this stuff. And be willing to endure the attacks and the community turning on you and the school persecuting you at every single turn as well, if you're going to keep them there and you're going to instill good values in them. The school system has been designed now to instill your children with terrible values. And again, what do we do? Similar to the police situation, what do we do? How do we deal with this problem? That's going to come, in my opinion, from changes on our own part in the future, whereby we understand that, the family is important. The family is important, and the best vehicle for child development is the family, not the public school system. Maybe then we can change some of our own attitudes, societal attitudes and such as well. Okay? Because that's ultimately going to be the best course. Obviously that then comes with changing a lot of like the economic policies and stuff like that, and using government to strip away a lot of the powers of government and actually hand them back to the people, which government is obviously not going to be very big on. And this was something as well with regards to what we talked about at the start. This is something you want to be keeping an eye out if you're in MAESTEG, for example. So going back to the police thing from before, this was a headline that, this is something from the Senedd Welsh Parliament, right? And it's saying here, police can investigate online comments, Deputy First Minister warns constituents. So Mr. Hugh Iranka Davis, right, Welsh Labour and Co-op MS for Ogmore, has issued this statement on to his constituents following misinformation, quote unquote, misinformation on asylum seekers and immigrants locally. All right. He's warned the public that laws are in place which govern comments made online or in person. South Wales Police have made it clear that they will act against anyone suspected of breaking the law. Right. He was there's no additional information or misinformation to which he refers in at this time, but the statement that he made was regarding MAESTEG, right? Small Welsh town of MAESTEG. It is deeply regrettable that unfounded rumours have been circulating on MAESTEG's social media hubs with inaccurate and misleading claims about placement of asylum seekers and immigrants locally. Irresponsible and ill-informed online gossip and rumours can easily fuel hate speech, intimidation, racism, and even violence. Laws are in place which govern comments made online or in person. South Wales Police have made it clear that they will act against anyone suspected of breaking the law. Some sound advice based on the recent misinformation. Always be skeptical of gossip and rumours circulating on social media, including those on local quote-unquote community hubs, and always go to the authoritative sources for accurate information. Now, I said about this, again, misinformation is often used as a term for saying things that the government doesn't like, even if it's true, right? And I'm not making any claims about this because I looked up a Wales Online article which said pretty much the same thing. There's not a lot of information circulating around about this at the moment from what I can see. There's been a lot of, comments being made about this stuff, but all I said was that we should keep an eye on this. Because the government and police wouldn't lie now, would they? Again, I have no evidence to suggest that this is true or what Hugh is saying here is false. I'm not making that claim that what he's saying is false. I'm saying that we should be skeptical, especially when he says here we should go to the authoritative sources for accurate information. I'm like, well, yeah, we did that with COVID and look where that got us. We did that with every single initiative that's been put forward, and funnily enough, it's always come back to bite us, whether it's now been pushing through digital ID, whether it's been to do with quote-unquote asylum seekers, refugees, immigration, all of this stuff, right? Every time we've referred to the authoritative sources, it's always come back to hurt us in some way. So forgive us now for being a little bit skeptical, understanding that people who are accused of being conspiracy theorists were right in pretty much like 99% of cases. People who were saying that it was called chemtrails, but, there was geoengineering going on at the time. Well, they were 100% correct. That the COVID stuff was not on the up and up and everything was not what they said it was. They were 100% correct on that. That they're trying to barrel us towards a one party, one government, one world government state. It's absolutely true. You get called a conspiracy theorist for all of these things still, somehow, for people saying that they're trying to turn our countries into a state like China, so it's all part of this one big governmental state, right? And we're all enslaved and subjugated like something out of 1984. For saying that, you get called a conspiracy theorist when it's 100% true. So forgive us for being a little bit skeptical here, thinking that, this has happened all up and down the country. We've seen how the demographic change has taken hold. We've seen the damage it's done. We might not want that in our communities. We might still have a little bit of a foothold left by which we can actually prevent it from happening. We can prevent our towns from turning into, and this is no disrespect to any of the people that are from these towns that are of our country and live in these towns, Luton, Blackburn, Rochdale, all of these other places, Tower Hamlets, all of these things. Maybe we don't want our communities turning out like that. Maybe we want our communities to be safe and high trust and with people that we know. And maybe our emotions are heightened somewhat because of how much we've been lied to and gaslit at every single turn about these things. And not only that, people are in prison. People have been imprisoned for saying things about it when they've been 100% vindicated. Wayne O'Rourke, 100% vindicated about Southport. He's still in prison. Still in prison. So forgive us. Forgive us for thinking that we could be next. Or things are going on already and you're deliberately lying about them. Again, I'm not making any claims. I'm not making any claims because I don't live there. I don't know. But we should keep an eye on this because they wouldn't lie to us now, would they? Speaking of lies, homelessness minister, true to her term or true to her title, threw out her tenants and then increased the rent by £700 a month. Rushanara Ali, just as British as you and me, that's a nice little rhyme there, just call me Shakespeare, has spoken out against, quote, unreasonable rent increases and then relisted her 4-bedroom townhouse in East London at £4,000 a month. 4K a month. Wow. So this is from the iPaper. So before, she was renting it out at £3,300 a month. And then the Labour homelessness minister, if you want to know again how deep the moral rot goes and how funny it is in some ways, right? Funny it is in some ways, in absurd ways. Not funny for the people that got kicked out of their accommodation, right? Not funny for that. Funny that the homelessness minister made people homeless in order to make more money. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the corruption within the Labour government, I don't know what will. I don't know what will. She threw out 4 tenants of her East London townhouse before relisting the property for £700 a month more in rent. The landlord MP has previously spoken out against private renters being exploited, quote unquote, and said her government will, quote, empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases. Well, she got what she campaigned for because she has since resigned from her position as homelessness minister, as we'll get onto in a moment. Labour's Renters' Rights Bill, which will become law next year, prohibits landlords who have ended a tenancy in order to sell a property from relisting it for a higher rent until at least 6 months after the tenants had moved out. So odds are she had a big say in this bill, something that obviously Labour wanted to back, so she would have a big say in this bill and was likely behind it, and then went completely against the principles of that bill to make more money for herself, to make 700 quid more a month for herself. Shows you the morals of the people that are running the Labour Party and running the country as a whole as well at the moment, because this isn't just unique to the Labour Party. This is all of the left, many instances towards the right as well. This is moral relative. This is the fruits of moral relativism in a nutshell. Because unless you have some kind of objective morality, which is a big question to tangle with, you have to tangle with some big almighty things, right? And big almighty people in order to start understanding that. With moral relativism, she's done nothing wrong. She's done nothing wrong. The only way you can say that she's done anything wrong is that, in my opinion, she's done something wrong, right? But you're not the objective authority on the matter, because then you can't have things like everybody's opinion being valid, for example. And if you're going to say that your opinion is more valid than anybody else's, you then either have to make a claim based on, pardon me, an objective standard outside of yourself, right? Or you have to say that you're the objective moral authority, in which case you're just making the argument that you are God, and that's the cardinal sin of pride, and you should go and repent. But anyway, so she's kicked them out unceremoniously, raised it by £700 a month. And after this was exposed, she then went on to resign. So this was posted yesterday, I believe. So that original article came out. Where is it? So that original article came out 2 days ago. Posted yesterday, Rushanara Ali has resigned as homeless minister after it emerged she had kicked out her tenants before hiking her rent by £700 a month. So this is her statement. It is with a heavy heart that I offer you my resignation as a minister. It has been an honour of my life to have played a part in first securing and then serving as part of this Labour government. You have my continued commitment, loyalty and support. Further to recent reporting, I want to make it clear at all times I have followed all relevant legal requirements. If that was the case, maybe legal, but if you'd followed all of the requirements of the court of public opinion and understanding, how this would look, especially given your position and that it's not exactly the moral thing to do. And then you go on to say that you took your responsibilities and duties seriously, and the facts demonstrate this. No, what you took seriously was your commitment to wanting more money for yourself. That's what you wanted. That's what you took very, very seriously, because you didn't give a shit about these people that you evicted and then forced them into a position where they would have had to pay you £700 a month more on such short notice. You didn't give a fuck about them. You didn't give a fuck about your responsibilities and duties as homelessness minister when you made people homeless. Fucking disgusting. However, it is clear that in continuing in my role will be a distraction from the ambitious work of the government. I have therefore decided to resign from my ministerial position. I think you resigned because you got absolutely fucking embarrassed. That's why you fucking resigned. You was hoping that nothing of this was going to come out, so that nobody would ever know, right? Are you thinking that you're so high on power, you're so high on your own farts, basically, that you think you can do anything, you're not going to suffer any repercussion for it. You think you can do the opposite of what your role dictates that you do, a problem that you solve. You think that you can contribute to a problem that you solve. Be basically, you flooding, you're the chief of the war on drugs, and you flood a bunch of drug dealers into your constituency and you don't do anything. Right? In fact, you pay them to distribute the drugs as long as you get a stipend back. Yeah, not a good look. Not a good look. But you just thought you weren't going to get caught, or you thought that you weren't going to suffer any repercussions for it. You thought you were untouchable, right? Quite clearly not. I'm happy to see it. I'm proud to have contributed to the change this government has delivered in the past year. The change, by the way, that's brought Keir Starmer's approval rating down to 9%. Working alongside the Deputy Prime Minister, we secured record investment in social and affordable housing, nearly £1 billion of funding to alleviate homelessness, not for those people, and rough sleeping. I am proud to have delivered this government's election strategy, leading to legislation that will protect and enhance our democracy. Democracy, again. With tough new laws on foreign donations, extending the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds, tackling harassment and intimidation in public life. But not solving the homelessness problem. Not solving the homelessness problem, at least for the Brits that you see on every street corner seemingly at the moment that are struggling to find a home, or, the hotels that we could house our own homeless in, but no, we have to accommodate all of the fucking third world for some reason when we can't even accommodate our own first. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people, not everybody obviously, would agree with me. We would rather house one of our own first, say one of the military veterans that are sleeping rough on the streets at the moment, or a person that's just been down on their luck and needs some help, of our people first, then and only then we can help out some parts of the rest of the world, right? There's a question even whether we should do that, right? I'm sorry. We should not be prioritizing all of the rest of the world and leaving our own people to suffer and die and sleep rough on the street. All the while, politicians like, what's her name? Rushanara Ali, make fucking bank off the back of it. And then make people homeless, actively contribute to the problem that she's there to solve for the sake of more money. That is disgusting to me. I don't know about you, but that is disgusting. That is disgusting to me. But this is the Labour government in a nutshell, basically. This is the Labour government in a nutshell, doing everything they can to pander to people that A, shouldn't be here, B, are bringing nothing of note to our countries and making many, many things worse, right? But they're banking on their vote still. They're showing that they still don't give a fuck about the British people. They want to kick sand and mud in their face at every single turn. An appeal to their foreign voting bloc that is slowly eating away at our country still. Chancellor Rachel Reeves went to meet members of the Pakistani community in her constituency. And in doing so, You can tell that she's engaging in some kind of performative tripe. Because for some reason, she chose to meet them with a tea towel on her head. With a tea towel wrapped around her head. And this weird kind of Hawaii-looking scarf thing. You know, the thing that women often wear, often by force, mostly by force, in Islamic countries to hide their hair, stuff like that. It does appear that Rachel Reeves can't even wear this right because she's still showing a lot of her hair at the front, so she can't even fucking wear it right. So it just looks like more of a half-assed effort than anything. Looks like she's trying to do the bare minimum to appeal to these men in this instance, right? Bear in mind, she's the only one that did this. There's 2 other women with her, I believe, that went to meet these people. Nothing on their heads whatsoever. She can't even bastard seemingly wear it right, which is, again, another a metaphor, if you will, for how these people are running the country. They try to look like they are, but they can't even bastard do it right. And they can't even make it look like they're doing it right. All to appeal to people that say we want shouldn't be here. But here's the video for you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh. I'll turn that fucking music off because that's getting on my nerves. I didn't know there was music in the video. So here you go. You can see she's talking with the members of the constituency with this bloody bastard tea towel thing on her head. And you could see that the others that came in basically had nothing on their head. I'll see if I can find it now. So there it is. See, do you see the lady there shaking the other lady's hand? The 2 of the ladies that are with her, absolutely nothing. So again, why the performative tripe? Why the performative tripe? Votes, my dear Watson. Votes, my dear Watson. And again, we're just sick and tired in this country at the moment of seeing this woke, disgusting woke shit in our country. That's what we're just sick and tired of. And that's why the betrayal of reform has been left such a state and taste in the mouth at the moment with some of the decisions that they've made. One of the biggest ones recently that made them look all the more like part of the establishment is that reform with Sarah Ponchin, in this instance, which I think we covered before, was one of the ones that was out celebrating Pride and was photographed next to a drag queen, I believe, whom Reform decided to recruit for some reason. They won't have Rupert Lowe, who seems to be getting more and more hardline in his nationalist sentiment, right? Really, really shifting the Overton window and, you know, doing so to the, I think, very real, you know, scaring of the establishment. I had to post something on not on Facebook, on X recently, because a bunch of illegal aliens rocked up on the shores of Great Yarmouth in dinghies. And that's Rupert Lowe's constituency, by the way. And I had to say, I was like, they could not have chosen a worse constituency to rock up on the shores on. They could not have chosen a worse constituency to rock up on the shores on. So in response to that, I'll quickly see if I can find it from Rupert Lowe's X page now, because he jumped into action very quickly, saying that dinghies... Oh, apparently there's a community note on it now. So there we go. Apparently the vessel was actually not a dinghy containing illegal migrants. It was a ocean rowing boat crewed by a member of 4 who were raising money for charity, which is good to see, because good to see it was a false alarm. Good to see it was a false alarm, actually. But he said, dinghies coming into Great Yarmouth right now. Authorities alerted, and I am urgency chasing. If these are illegal migrants, I will be using every tool at my disposal to ensure these individuals are deported. Enough is enough. Britain needs mass deportations now. So Rupert Lowe, not mincing his words. Meanwhile, even I think to the shock of what is now going to be Reform's voter base, Sarah has said that she supports digital ID. The one thing that is desperately needed to institute a social credit system, digital ID, Reform now say, according to users on X, which will play a video now, that they support.
What do you feel about ID cards, digital ID cards? Is that something that Reform UK would support?
Well, look, I personally don't have a problem with an ID card. You know, I don't see what the issue is. Most of our information now is on our smartphones anyway.
Can we trust the system, though?
Well, what's more, how much more could we be at risk? As I say, all of our information is out there in a cloud, in the ether, whatever you want to call it. It's all available, isn't it? We can all be tracked now if somebody wants to track us.
What do you feel about ID cards, digital ID?
Again, coming from the background of Sarah, this should not be surprising, but this just shows really, really how far that they are falling, that they are now openly endorsing some of the methods that will be necessary to institute a kind of social credit system, which is straight down the uniparty totalitarian line. I have not seen anything from Tice or Farage or anybody saying that they, like they did with Anne Widdecombe and the trans prison situation we talked about last time. Pardon me. Whether they oppose it or not. So I'm assuming that this is correct, because obviously she's speaking on behalf of reform. We should absolutely disagree with her, because there's no saying what the government can do when you give them this power. They can just turn your ability to go anywhere off at any time. That's why we should oppose it. Doesn't matter what situation we're in right now. We should oppose it getting any worse, Sarah. And that's why we should oppose digital ID and central bank digital currency. But this should tell you everything that you need to know. This should tell you everything that you need to know. So not only do they support digital ID by their own metric now, according to some, namely Tim Shipman in this instance, who's writing in The Spectator, I believe, reform, appealing to the demographic which they really want to appeal to, potentially even making Jeremy Corbyn's party blush with how much they're appealing to these people. Westminster councillor Laila Cunningham is being lined up to be Reform's candidate for Mayor of London. They did this at the expense of Ant Middleton. One of the most popular people in the country from SAS who dares wins, a true patriot who cares about his people and his country, literally went to fight and give his life for it across the seas. So instead of Ant Middleton, who you can be sure that a lot of the British public will get behind, namely because he's, British man, strong, not a Muslim, a moderate Muslim mother who could communicate very effectively and talk sense, she could win. Quite clearly showing that they want a candidate that will not actually make a change, because she's not going to then go against her people, is she? She's not going to then go against her people. No, they're actually banking on the Muslim vote the same way that all of the other parties are, seemingly. And that just goes to show that Reform are capitulating at every single turn. Reform are capitulating on these key issues in every single term, and to their massive detriment. Now seeing they brought Sarah Ponchin on board, and now they're endorsing digital ID. They brought Zaya Yousaf on board, and then the immigration rhetoric dropped down. They brought Laila Cunningham on board. Now we're going to see another Muslim mayor of London if she wins. Not to mention somebody who's going to likely be a very liberal female, which is only going to make matters even worse, in my opinion. Just the betrayal of Reform has truly been something to behold, something to marvel at. It's truly disgusting. Truly disgusting. In Wales at the moment, I'm thinking, what is our best alternative? I can't see anything, worse in the future for Wales than I'd sooner vote Reform than any of the others, I think, at the moment, purely because the ideas that the others want to bring in are so damaging. The Plaid Cymru, Labour, and Green guys, they're all behind Nation of Sanctuary and mass ethnic replacement, basically, and genocide by replacement. We can't have that. That would, that's going to be extinction for our people. We can't have that. There's extinction for our people and our faith and everything like that. It'd be civilization destroying. So for all their faults, I think they might be the best thing that we've got in Wales at the moment, but time will tell. Time will tell. We've got precious little time until next year, to the general election, till the Welsh election, sorry. We will see. But yeah, that'll do it for the show today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we found it useful and say that we enjoyed it, because there's not really too much to say that we enjoyed. But I hope we have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever we are. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you for watching. Hwyl fawr. We'll see you next time. You take care now. Godspeed.